Ever wondered how Anglo-Saxon woodcutters endured brutal forest winters without heated cabins, fuel, or modern gear? While today's logging stops in freezing cold, they worked for months in isolation, staying warm, fed, and productive with techniques that outlast anything modern survival equipment can offer. Underground winter camps. Hidden shelters that trapped body heat below ground level, creating warm living spaces that required no external heating while remaining invisible to potential enemies. Anglo-Saxon woodcutters dug winter camps below frost line where ground temperature remained stable regardless of surface conditions. Underground construction provided natural insulation that maintained comfortable temperatures, using only body heat and minimal fire. The excavation process created living spaces large enough for multiple workers while small enough to heat efficiently. Entrance tunnels angled downward to trap warm air while preventing cold wind infiltration that would cool underground chambers. Tree heat harvesting. Extracting warmth from living wood using techniques that accessed thermal energy stored in tree trunks without damaging timber value or killing forest resources. Living trees contain significant thermal mass that Anglo-Saxon woodcutters learned to access for warming during extreme cold. Specific techniques drew heat from tree cores without harming commercial timber value or tree survival. The heat extraction process created temporary warming stations throughout work areas, providing relief from extreme cold without requiring fuel consumption or fire maintenance that would alert enemies or waste working time. Fat fuel systems. Animal fat for light and heating that provided long-burning fuel sources superior to wood fires for underground shelter heating and tool maintenance work. Anglo-Saxon fat rendering created concentrated fuel that burned hotter and longer than wood while producing less smoke in confined underground spaces. Rendered tallow from hunting provided lighting and heating that lasted through entire winter seasons. The fat fuel preparation involved careful rendering that removed water and impurities, causing smoking and uneven burning. Properly prepared tallow burned cleanly for hours while providing substantial heat output from small fuel quantities. Fat lamps illuminated underground work areas while providing heating that kept tools and equipment functional during extreme cold. The dual-purpose fuel system maximized utility from limited resources while maintaining operational capability throughout winter months. Storage techniques kept rendered fat fresh throughout winter despite lack of refrigeration. Underground storage in sealed containers prevented spoilage while maintaining fuel quality for months of continuous use. Snow insulation techniques. Using cold to create warmth through snow construction methods that turned hostile weather into protective insulation, maintaining comfortable temperatures inside forest shelters. Anglo-Saxon snow architecture used specific snow density and construction techniques that created effective insulation from frozen precipitation. Snow shelters maintained interior temperatures substantially warmer than exterior conditions while requiring no heating fuel. The construction process selected snow with optimal density for insulation while avoiding snow too heavy for structural stability. Proper snow selection created walls that insulated effectively while supporting roof loads from additional snowfall. Interior design included air circulation that prevented carbon dioxide buildup while maintaining warmth through proper ventilation sizing and placement. Snow shelter engineering balanced breathability with heat retention through calculated ventilation that prevented both suffocation and heat loss. Snow thermal mass absorbed heat during occupation and released it gradually during unoccupied periods, maintaining relatively stable temperatures that prevented equipment freezing and provided comfortable return conditions after work periods. Forest food preservation. Keeping meat fresh without freezing using natural preservation techniques that maintained food quality throughout winter while preventing spoilage that would threaten survival during isolated forest work. Anglo-Saxon meat preservation used smoking, salting, and cold storage techniques optimized for winter forest conditions. Natural refrigeration from winter temperatures combined with preservation methods that prevented bacterial growth while maintaining nutritional value. Smoking techniques used specific wood types that created preservation compounds while adding flavor to preserved meats. Cold smoking in winter conditions provided optimal preservation without cooking meat, creating shelf-stable protein that lasted months. Underground storage used stable ground temperatures that kept preserved meat fresh while preventing freezing that would damage meat quality. Storage chambers maintained optimal preservation temperatures naturally without requiring active temperature control. Salt preservation used natural salt sources combined with winter cold that created preservation conditions unavailable during warmer seasons. Winter salting achieved better results than summer preservation through combined effects of salt and cold temperatures. Tree bark nutrition. Survival calories from wood using specific tree species and preparation techniques that provided essential nutrition when hunting failed or weather prevented normal food procurement activities. Anglo-Saxon woodcutters knew which tree inner barks contained edible nutrients that could sustain life during food shortages. Specific species provided varying nutritional content, with some offering substantial calories while others contributed essential vitamins preventing deficiency diseases. Bark harvesting techniques removed inner bark without killing trees that represented valuable timber resources. Careful harvesting maintained tree survival while providing emergency nutrition during extended periods when hunting or stored food wasn't available. Preparation methods made bark palatable and digestible through processing that broke down tough fibers while concentrating nutritional content. Proper bark preparation created food that could sustain workers for weeks during emergency conditions. The nutritional knowledge included understanding which trees provided best nutrition during different seasons and which preparation methods maximized caloric extraction from bark materials. Systematic bark nutrition understanding provided reliable emergency food regardless of other food source availability. Cold weather tool maintenance. Keeping axes sharp in winter using specialized techniques that prevented metal brittleness while maintaining cutting edges necessary for productive timber work in extreme cold conditions. Anglo-Saxon tool maintenance adapted to winter conditions that made metal brittle and prone to chipping or breaking. Specific sharpening techniques and edge geometries prevented cold weather tool failure while maintaining cutting effectiveness. Metal tempering knowledge enabled adjustment of tool hardness for winter conditions. Properly tempered tools resisted cold brittleness while maintaining edge retention necessary for heavy timber work throughout winter months. Sharpening techniques used in winter differed from summer methods to account for metal behavior changes in extreme cold. Winter sharpening created edge geometries that resisted chipping while providing adequate sharpness for efficient cutting. Tool warming techniques prevented brittle failure during use by maintaining metal temperature above critical brittleness threshold. Proper warming prevented catastrophic tool failure that could strand workers without functional cutting implements. Storage methods protected tools from extreme temperature cycling that caused metal fatigue and premature failure. Proper storage maintained tool integrity throughout winter season while ensuring reliable performance during work periods. Frostbite prevention methods. Natural protection against freezing using plant-based treatments and physical techniques that prevented cold injury while maintaining manual dexterity necessary for precision timber work. Anglo-Saxon cold protection used rendered animal fats and plant oils that created moisture barriers preventing frostbite while maintaining skin flexibility. Protective treatments enabled extended cold exposure without tissue damage that would end working capability. Layering systems trapped air for insulation while allowing moisture escape that prevented sweat accumulation, leading to rapid cooling. Proper layering maintained warmth without creating dampness that caused more severe cold injury than inadequate insulation. Circulation maintenance techniques prevented extremity freezing through systematic movement patterns that maintained blood flow to fingers and toes. Active circulation management prevented frostbite during extended static work periods when natural movement didn't provide adequate warming. Emergency warming techniques reversed early frostbite symptoms before permanent tissue damage occurred. Recognition of frostbite warning signs combined with immediate treatment prevented minor cold injury from progressing to severe damage requiring amputation. Nutrition strategies supported cold resistance through caloric intake that fueled internal heat generation necessary for extreme cold survival. Proper winter nutrition maintained body temperature regulation that prevented cold injury during extended exposure periods. Winter wood selection. Choosing timber that survived cold using knowledge of how freezing temperatures affected wood properties and which species provided optimal lumber quality when harvested during winter months. Anglo-Saxon woodcutters understood that winter harvesting produced superior timber compared to summer cutting. Frozen wood contained less moisture and fewer active insects, creating lumber that dried better and resisted decay more effectively than summer-cut timber. Species selection considered how different trees responded to winter conditions. Some species produced stronger lumber when winter harvested while others developed checking or splitting that reduced timber value. Proper species knowledge maximized lumber quality from winter cutting operations. Timing within winter season affected wood properties significantly. Early winter wood differed from late winter timber in moisture content and structural characteristics. Optimal harvest timing produced best lumber quality while avoiding weather conditions that prevented efficient work. Processing techniques adapted to frozen wood that behaved differently than unfrozen timber during cutting and splitting. Winter processing methods prevented damage that would reduce lumber value while taking advantage of frozen wood properties that actually improved certain processing operations. Transportation methods used winter conditions that made moving heavy timber easier than summer transport. Frozen ground and snow provided superior surfaces for timber movement, enabling transport of loads impossible during warmer seasons when soft ground prevented heavy hauling. Isolation psychology. Mental techniques for months alone using psychological strategies that prevented depression and maintained motivation during extended periods without human contact or social interaction. Anglo-Saxon woodcutters developed mental discipline that enabled productive work during months-long isolation in harsh conditions. Psychological techniques maintained focus and motivation when physical hardship and loneliness could destroy mental stability. Routine establishment created structure that prevented mental deterioration during isolation. Systematic daily patterns maintained purpose and direction when absence of external social pressure could lead to dangerous apathy or despair. Purpose maintenance used long-term goal focus that sustained motivation through daily hardships. Understanding that winter work enabled summer comfort and family support provided meaning that counteracted isolation's psychological challenges. Social preparation before winter isolation enabled mental resilience during actual isolation periods. Pre-winter social satiation reduced loneliness, impact, while advanced planning gave confidence that isolation was temporary and purposeful rather than abandonment. Mental exercise techniques maintained cognitive function during extended periods of repetitive physical labor and limited mental stimulation. Deliberate mental challenges prevented cognitive decline that could impair judgment and threaten survival during emergency situations. Water procurement. Finding and accessing drinking water when streams froze solid and snow presented dehydration risks that killed unprepared workers faster than cold or hunger during winter forest isolation. Anglo-Saxon woodcutters understood that winter dehydration posed severe survival threats despite abundant snow and ice surrounding them. Eating snow directly lowered body temperature dangerously while requiring substantial energy to melt internally, creating deadly cooling that could cause hypothermia. Ice harvesting techniques identified safe ice sources that provided clean drinking water without contamination from stagnant ponds or polluted streams. Proper ice selection avoided waterborne illness that could prove fatal during isolated winter conditions when medical treatment was unavailable. Melting methods used body heat and insulated containers that converted ice to drinking water without requiring fire fuel or creating smoke that could reveal camp locations. Efficient melting techniques provided adequate hydration while conserving energy and maintaining operational security. Underground water sources provided liquid water throughout winter when surface streams froze completely. Knowledge of spring locations and underground seepage areas enabled access to unfrozen water that didn't require melting energy expenditure. Snow processing techniques created safe drinking water through specific collection and melting procedures that prevented hypothermia while ensuring adequate hydration. Proper snow processing involved collecting clean snow from specific locations and using gradual warming that prevented dangerous body cooling. Group coordination systems. Managing multi-person winter camps through organizational methods that prevented conflicts while maintaining productive cooperation during months of close quarters living in extreme stress conditions. Anglo-Saxon winter woodcutting camps housed multiple workers in confined spaces where interpersonal conflicts could threaten survival. Systematic social organization prevented disputes while maintaining productive cooperation essential for winter survival and timber production. Role assignment created clear responsibilities that prevented confusion and conflict over work distribution. Each worker understood specific duties that contributed to group survival while avoiding overlap that could create territorial disputes or perceived inequality. Dispute resolution protocols addressed conflicts before they escalated to violence or group dissolution that would threaten everyone's survival. Established procedures for handling disagreements maintained group cohesion through winter months when leaving wasn't a viable option. Resource sharing systems ensured fair distribution of food, fuel, and shelter space while preventing hoarding or theft that could destroy group trust. Transparent resource management maintained cooperation essential for collective survival. Leadership structures balanced authority necessary for coordination with equality that prevented resentment during extended isolation. Effective winter camp leadership maintained order while respecting individual dignity essential for group psychological health during months-long isolation under extreme conditions. Anglo-Saxon woodcutters understood something about extreme cold survival that our modern world has forgotten. They thrived in conditions that shut down modern operations completely, using knowledge rather than equipment to maintain productivity through winter months when contemporary workers retreat to heated comfort. Their techniques prove that genuine survival capability comes from understanding, rather than technology, and that the harshest environments become manageable when approached with systematic knowledge refined through generations of lived experience. Today's outdoor industry profits from our ignorance of these superior methods, selling expensive gear that fails in conditions that Anglo-Saxon knowledge handled routinely using materials found in any forest. For more forgotten survival wisdom that outperformed modern technology, subscribe to Medieval Forge and discover the lost knowledge our ancestors mastered. Snow insulation techniques. Using cold to create warmth through snow construction methods that turned hostile weather into protective insulation. Maintaining comfortable temperatures inside forest shelters. Anglo-Saxon snow architecture used specific snow density and construction techniques that created effective insulation from frozen precipitation. Snow shelters maintained interior temperatures substantially warmer than exterior conditions while requiring no heating fuel. The construction process selected snow with optimal density for insulation while avoiding snow too heavy for structural stability. Proper snow selection created walls that insulated effectively while supporting roof loads from additional snowfall. Interior design included air circulation that prevented carbon dioxide buildup while maintaining warmth through proper ventilation sizing and placement. Snow shelter engineering balanced breathability with heat retention through calculated ventilation that prevented both suffocation and heat loss. Snow thermal mass absorbed heat during occupation and released it gradually during unoccupied periods, maintaining relatively stable temperatures that prevented equipment freezing and provided comfortable return conditions after work periods. Forest food preservation. Keeping meat fresh without freezing using natural preservation techniques that maintained food quality throughout winter while preventing spoilage that would threaten survival during isolated forest work. Anglo-Saxon meat preservation used smoking, salting, and cold storage techniques optimized for winter forest conditions. Natural refrigeration from winter temperatures combined with preservation methods that prevented bacterial growth while maintaining nutritional value. Smoking techniques used specific wood types that created preservation compounds while adding flavor to preserved meats. Cold smoking in winter conditions provided optimal preservation without cooking meat, creating shelf-stable protein that lasted months. Underground storage used stable ground temperatures that kept preserved meat fresh while preventing freezing that would damage meat quality. Storage chambers maintained optimal preservation temperatures naturally without requiring active temperature control. Salt preservation used natural salt sources combined with winter cold that created preservation conditions unavailable during warmer seasons. Winter salting achieved better results than summer preservation through combined effects of salt and cold temperatures.